Yes, sorry. So I'm asking the question, with gospel music in these collegiate environments, I'm putting it this way, does it matter who sings the song? In other words, when the student comes in with, let's say, without faith, or from another tradition, is it possible that instead of it being an expression, that it's a learning environment? It works the other way. Silvester, do you have anything? Has there been anything written on the choir, like articles or reviews? Good afternoon. What about the availability of some of those materials? I'd like to really, present. I'd like to have the factual base and to know what's been said about the choir, and just some Xerox copies. Well, Silvester, I have more long range. I would like to do a study just of the choir. I'm not tenured. You're ahead of me on the tenure track. I came into this business late, so I'm in my 5th year. So they're going to review me in about a year. So I'm doing things. I won't have anyone tell me what I should be publishing because I do it out of love. But there's certain things I have to get out if I'm going to stay in this game. So there's some Korean material I have to get out first before I publish, and write up the gospel material. So that's probably about at least a year away, what I'd really like to do. But in the meantime, I am giving a paper, in a few weeks, and I'm trying to get a sense of the choir. But I'd like to do a study in itself at some point, and this would be the beginning of it. This information. It's not so much. I guess I feel my role is to give it voice in ethnomusicological circles. More let the choir present itself. I'm not out to prove any point about it. I am interested in bringing this great tradition into the secular environment. That sacred-secular mix interests me a great deal. In other words, the kinds of things you're doing, and even as you explained to me. Again, what? So that's part of my ethics as a writer. But I would send it to you ahead of time, Silvester. I'd want your comment on it. I believe in this as collaborative, and then if you don't like something I've said, let me know, and we could talk it over, and but that's just how I work. And first I'm writing one short article for, it's called the College Music Symposium. There's a College Music Society, has a little journal, and it's just about this issue of the place of the choir, starting with my experience, but Cal too, in the music curriculum. So that's why I'm looking for some kind of fact. For instance, in other words, why do we get credit, down at San Diego, and they don't on your campus? Now, some of those things are historical, just the relationship of the ensembles to the department. Correct, but moving towards an article. But the conference are my colleagues in ethnomusicology, many of them who, Melanie Burnham, of course, yes, and Portia Maltzby and Jackie JJ, these, I'm sure you know Jackie from UCLA. So these are scholars and Eddie Meadows in African American music. So I'm very much a newcomer to that, but I'm presenting it as a learner both of the tradition and among African American scholars. No comparison, that's absolutely right. But the irony is that they get credit and your students don't. That's the great irony. And the difference that Ken is full-time and you are not. Now, I'm going to be delicate about those things. I don't mean to, Sure. And actually, I wanted to even speak with Ali, now as the chair. Again? I missed that. Well, I know last fall he was delighted with it. He would be the one. I have to tell you what I did hear actually through Bonnie Wade is that Ali, for all his forwardness, kind of thinks gospel music belongs in the church. He's, so I was very taken aback with that. I was very surprised at that attitude. No, I know just what you mean. It really functioned in the white world, all this. Do you know the name Bonnie Wade? Yeah. Well, she's, an ethnomusicologist. She's now dean of all the undergraduates, 18,000 of them or something. And she came that time I gave this little paper in April, and Idella was there. And she had this frown on her forehead, and I asked her afterwards. She said, I was frowning because I was thinking our students in the Music 26, they should have this experience of singing. She said, I think I'll ask if maybe Silvester could come in and teach our students. And then I think I hate to spread this kind of thing, but she went to Ali, and he said, I don't know, it's pretty religious. That was one objection. He thought it would be too religious to bring into the classroom. And I said, well, that's not fair. He went to a concert, and part of the concert is witnessing and all that, but Silvester wouldn't do that in a classroom, I know. Yeah, so it stops there, and I just... Well, I haven't given up on it too, of course, and especially if you're around for that. I think it was just a opinion, and it didn't stop Bonnie. But if I had been on campus, and I would have kept, how should I say, just getting people to talk to each other, because I don't think there's really a blockade there. I think there's, do you know what I mean by if he only witnessed a concert where he heard, the prayers at the beginning and the end, he might have just thought, well, that will be the transfer to the classroom. And that's fair neither to you nor quite to him. Well, I think he does. I know he does, because I did a study with him, and he came up in Black Church in St. Louis and sang, and I don't know if he's an active churchgoer now. I know he goes, Easter and all that. I don't know what more. But I don't want, what I say to prejudice you towards him, because I think you two could, I had no doubt. So if it's identified and limited to Black church, that's a way of sidelining it. But doesn't it get back to, but all those people singing it, first of all, the Latin is kind of a division. But what's so clear is there is a connection between your singers singing and their spirit and so it's still actively religious. Yes. Well, I think that was just meaning some of the witnessing that goes on in a concert, that they somehow thought that might come into the class. Is culturally acceptable. Yeah. Well, this is our function. We are chroniclers. I look at myself often. That's what I mean by letting the choir speak for itself. Let's start small, but let me write up some of this and give you some voice. And I mean that in some of these issues. Well, we'll talk about this. I'm going to get it written up first. There are a couple steps to it, and then maybe we could talk about the format and how we, where we put it, that kind of thing. But most of all, it's just important that it be recorded, because you're very articulate and very nuanced in how you think of this. On the professionality of gospel. And cool. Yeah, I mean cool. That not a hot medium, but a. Yes. Yeah. Well, you've got a 3-part argument, and I'd like to set it out there and then pass it by you to see if I got it right. That both because of text, because of emotionality, and because of the identification of a certain style with with African American community, and certain majority culture norms for expressiveness. I'll listen over, to, what you've said and kind of mull it over and try to get it out there in some, in some form. But you're so articulate. I think some things are just best disseminated just by recorded interview. Well, there even the little regional group of ethnomusicology, small group that they meet in the Bay Area. Well, let us work on these things, Silvester, because you have a message that's come out musically, and the choir hears your, so to speak, your theoretical underpinnings, but I think it needs it needs to be voiced. It needs just a venue, and
That is my continued
and then it's relegated to an ethnic kind of corner, or instead of an art form of validity. Yeah. But you could say something. Well, they say the words, but they don't believe them. Of course, that's. Well, as it should be. It's worth the passion. It's worth. Yeah. Mhm. That's right. It's That's right.